Hint, the cage is not locked. I heard this quote by Nova Knutson a few years ago, and I think about it almost every day. Welcome to Sparked. I'm Cara Bradley. The cage is not locked. We live in mental cages. We all do. We create these boundaries, these limitations in how we're living. We have these beliefs and these stories around why things aren't working out or why we can't go for the things that we want. We all do it, but we don't have to live in the cage. We don't need to live in the mental cage. We can find the door. So our limiting beliefs, our fixed mindsets can keep us feeling stuck. The mindsets like I'm too late, or I'm too old, or I don't have what it takes. It's not in me. I don't know what to do. Or even other obstacles that we set for ourselves. These are stories that we tell. And when we tell them over and over and over again, they start becoming part of the fabric of who we are. And we lock ourselves in these cages that don't even exist. So years and years ago, I walked into my garage and there was a little bird in the corner. And it was so scared and I didn't want to fluster it anymore. So I just tried to make a pathway, a very clear pathway for it to get out. I opened the door, obviously, the garage door, and left it open for a little bit. And the bird just stayed in there for like an hour. I had to go out. So I decided to just leave the garage door open while I was gone. And when I came back, that little guy was just still there. And I kept saying to him, look, the door's right there. It's a huge door. Go ahead, go fly, go be free. Eventually, it found its way out, but it took a while. And I think about that a lot, especially with this quote, the cage is not locked. We lock ourselves into these places when there's a very obvious door out, but we get ourselves fixed in these beliefs and in these mindsets to think that there is no way out. There's no opportunity. There's no possibility. And boy, oh boy, is that a ugly way to live. We have so many options, and it's so helpful to just get clear about what our options are and what's holding us back and what we're not seeing. And so we're going to do a little challenge in a few minutes. But first, I want to just share that I've had my own stories. I've had my own cages, and we all do in our own respects. I had owned a yoga studio, and we opened a second studio. Boy, that did not work. Nothing about it worked. It just was kind of a failure from the beginning. And I was locked in a lease. And I remember thinking, I've got to ride this lease out, and this is going to be brutal. And I remember feeling very stuck until I remember I sat in a park with a wide open field. Sometimes that really helps us to expand our perspective. And I started to think about what my options were. And I asked, what am I not seeing here? And eventually went on to talk to the landlord, got out of the lease early, closed the doors, right? It's just a simple example because most of us are feeling stuck in some aspect of our lives, whether it be health or relationships or jobs or just stuck in purpose. So another example, great example, much better than my example, actually, is Diana Nyad. She is the infamous swimmer, and she swam from Cuba to Miami, the first human to ever do that. And she tried several times and failed and failed and failed. And everybody was saying, don't do it. Why are you doing this? And she just had such a passion for succeeding. And so her last attempt, she was all well trained and had a great staff, got in the water, and her mantra was find a way, find a way. And she repeated it in her head over and over as she swam. Her book is entitled Find a Way. And I love that simple expression because it can interrupt a limiting belief. It can interrupt these patterns that we get ourselves stuck in, these stories that hold us back and keep us in the cage and keep that door hidden from us. So I have a little challenge for you. It's very, very simple. And you can start small or you can start with something big. The first step is to name something you want. You really, really want. Whether it be health, job, relationship, passion, maybe it's that dream you've always had. Name it, write it down. I want this. Then name the obstacles right off the top of your head. I'm not tall enough. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have the degree. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I mean, you know what it is, right? The list goes on. Number 3 is ask yourself 2 questions. First, what are my options? Second, what am I not seeing? I think it's a really, really important question to ask. What am I not seeing? It kind of opens us up to possibility, to outrageous possibility. And sometimes those are the ones that work. Those are the doors out of this mental cage that we get stuck in. So first name what you want, name the obstacles, ask those questions, and then finally just take that little first step, that very, very first thing that you can do to just get closer to the door, to move you just a little bit closer to solution. We have to start somewhere. Most of the time, it starts with changing how we're thinking, with changing the mindset. And even before changing the mindset, we have to just become aware of it. Becoming aware is often the first step to change. So the cage is not locked, my friend. It never was. Yes, some obstacles are real. Most of them are stories and limiting beliefs. So getting closer to what our options are and what we're not seeing helps us to loosen up all of that stuckness, and it helps us to find the door that we can eventually jump out of and fly away. I hope this was helpful. I share what I'm going through myself, very simply, very roughly, and I hope that they're helpful. And if they are, please hit subscribe to these sparks. And you can also find more sparks on my Substack at the link below. See you next time.